You've got to kiss an angel good morning.
Now, Mississippi's Charlie Pride takes us into the break with one of our great congressmen from our state, from the 3rd District, Michael Guest. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
The studio crowd is excited to get to hear you speak this morning, Congressman. It's a pleasure to have you, and thank you so much for coming on with us this morning. And also thank Peyton. She is always so helpful, and she's always sending me stuff from your office, and I really appreciate that and appreciate her. And I like to call these folks out that help us that don't get a lot of airtime, but she's certainly a part of the organization there that really helps out. So thank her for me, if you would.
Well, I will, and you're right. She's a crucial part of our team. She does a great job as our communications director, not only coordinating but making sure that we're sending information out proactively about the things that we're doing in Washington. She does all of our social media, all of our weekly newsletters, and we are blessed to have her on the team. So thank you so much for recognizing her this morning.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, look, Congressman, you're an attorney, and I just want to lay this out for you. If you would just give me one moment to sort of lay this out, I'd like to get your opinion, because you've been involved as a prosecutor, you're an attorney, you understand the law, you've been involved with it all of your life. So let's just put it like this. Article 2 of the Constitution gives the president, it vests the power of the executive office of the president in one guy, the president of the United States. Section 2 calls him the commander-in-chief of the military. Now, we've got a situation where we have judges, local district judges, who are not constitutional, by the way. They were created by Congress. The only constitutional judges are the Supreme Court. If I'm wrong on any of this, I want you to correct me. But you have these local district judges that are basically getting involved in the executive branch and telling the executive what he can and can't do. For example, there was a judge yesterday who is a LGBTQT, add the alphabet to it, who said how stupid it was that the President of the United States didn't want LGBTQ alphabet people in the military, which is basically his decision to make, not hers. So is there anything we can do to stop this from happening? I'd just like your opinion.
You know, I think what we're going to have to do is let some of this play out quickly through the court system. And ultimately, a lot of this will make it up to the United States Supreme Court. And I do expect, particularly with the makeup of the Supreme Court that we have now, that a lot of the injunctions, the rulings against the administration by these district judges will be stricken down, and that this challenge through the judicial system to put the checks and balances on what the president is able to do constitutionally, much of that will end. And so I think this is a last-ditch effort by the Democrats. You know, they weren't able to win the election, so they weren't able to keep Joe Biden or Kamala Harris in office. They lost the House, they lost the Senate, and so this is their last avenue of resistance. But knowing the makeup of the Supreme Court, Ted, I'm confident that much of these lawsuits that are ongoing now will quickly be overturned by the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will allow the president the ability to execute the articles or the powers of the office that you spoke of under Article 2.
So I guess another question that I would have that I've heard circulating, I'm not sure, but I would like to just get it cleared up with you, is that if Congress created these district courts to assist the Supreme Court throughout the land, can't Congress put restrictions on what these courts can do? Per se, the restraining orders, the temporary restraining orders, the stays, the whatever, that affect the entire nation outside of their district. Can't you put some restrictions on it?
Well, you know, there are certain courts that are already created by Congress that are limited in the scope of what those courts can do. I think of immigration courts. Okay. There are federal immigration judges, and the only power that they have are the power to hear immigration cases. They don't have power outside of that. So, yes, Congress has the ability to create district courts. They have the funding mechanism to where all that funding then has to come through the legislative branch. And Congress could, in fact, if we chose to, put restrictions on courts as to what issues they could hear and what issues that they couldn't hear. But, you know, I will tell you that while this is an inconvenience right now, that much of this will be very short-lived. And I think that we are better served, instead of going after the courts at this point, we're better served by putting into legislation the things that President Trump is doing. He's doing things by executive order, which we know can be overturned by a subsequent executive order 4 years from now. As Congress, we need to be focusing on making sure that we are codifying what the president is doing, and then we can point to that and we can say, hey, this is the law of the land. And if somebody wants to challenge that again, we can point to a particular federal statute and say the president is acting in pursuit of this statute, which has been passed by Congress, and then we won't have to worry about future legal challenges to what either President Trump is doing or what some future president is doing as they are seeking to enforce the law and to carry out the duties given to them under the Constitution.
Well, how's that coming, by the way? Because I know that he has signed, a bunch of executive orders. How many of those are being taken up by Congress as something that, should be codified into law?
You know, I tell you that we're working particularly on some of the immigration to try to get things moving. As you know, right now, the number one focus really that we've seen both in the House and Senate, well, the Senate twofold. The Senate is working on the confirmation, and the Senate, I tell you, has done yeoman's work confirming the nominees that President Trump put up. We know that the Democrats have put up roadblock after roadblock on particularly the people such as RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard. There were a number of Trump's nominees that the Democrats basically came out and said, hey, these people will never be confirmed. And the Senate has pushed those through, and here we are a month into office, and he has at least two-thirds, if not three-quarters of all of those people requiring confirmation for cabinet-level positions have been confirmed. And then we're also working very diligently on the budget reconciliation process to try to make sure that we're giving the president the money that he needs to secure the border, giving him the money that he needs to make sure that our military has the funding necessary to perform their mission, and then also working toward renewing the Trump tax cuts. And those were all pledges that the president made to the American people when he ran for office. And so we're working to try to make sure we can help him fulfill those promises.
Okay. I want to talk about DOGE in just a second. But before we move on, we're talking about taxes and policy and congressional legislation. The president promised no taxes on tips, on overtime, on Social Security. If you want to give folks for Social Security a raise, stop taking taxes out. How's that coming? Is that in any legislation right now?
So that is part of the budget reconciliation process. And in the House, we were able to pass a budget resolution out of the Budget Committee, which will go to the floor next week. In that budget resolution, there is money set aside for much of the tax relief that we just talked about. Now, the question is going to become how much of that is going to be permanent versus how much of that may be some sort of temporary relief. But if I'm not mistaken, I think it's $4.5 trillion that has been set aside in the budget reconciliation package for the Ways and Means Committee to start writing the tax relief portion. And we're looking at extending the Trump tax cuts from the Trump Tax Cuts and Job Act in his previous administration. You're right. There's been campaign promises from no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. And so the Ways and Means Committee will be writing that legislation once we pass the budget resolution. And hopefully sometimes by late spring, early summer, we'll have a much better idea of what's going to be included in that tax package.
Okay, well, that pretty much sums that up. Thank you for the update on that. We're talking to Congressman Michael Guest from the 3rd District, and appreciate him coming in this morning to talk to us. DOGE, this is, I've never seen in my entire life a group of individuals in a particular party completely go hysterical and lose their mind over a person who's trying to save our government from going bankrupt. And that's just my opinion, but I think that is shared by a lot of people. And I'd just like to know what your take is on DOGE. They say they could save up to $1 trillion. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but what is your take so far on DOGE, and do you support the effort?
I support the effort 110%. I mean, what they've been able to do so far, Michael, has just been truly amazing. I mean, you look at just the short period of time in which they've been able to look through the books of the federal government, all the waste, the fraud and abuse that they found, and they've just skimmed the surface of. They've not looked at many of the larger agencies where they're going to find additional waste. And so I support what Elon Musk and his team are doing. I am shocked that any American would be against cutting waste and fraud. The way that the Democrats have pushed back against DOGE and what they're doing, to me, is ludicrous. But look, we need to do more of that. We need to look at every agency. We need to look at every line of every budget to make sure that we know where money is being spent, because we've seen in just a couple of weeks, the amount of waste that we've already uncovered. And I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg. So, yes, I support DOGE. I support what Elon's doing. And I will do everything within my power to make sure that he has the ability to continue to audit the books of the American people and be able to save money.
Yeah. It's so funny to me, all the crazy people out here talking about this. But, what I see is, by the way, Elon Musk in an interview last night gave a shout out to Amy Klobuchar, Senator, because she's been working on this for a long time. But isn't it a shame, and don't you feel somewhat embarrassed as a sitting member of Congress, you can't actually go over and find out what the hell's going on in one of these agencies that you have oversight on? It seems to me that Congress has abdicated their authority in the United States government to the bureaucracy. And what is being done to address that?
You're exactly right, and this is something that I've talked about for years now, is that Congress has slowly, over time, they have given the role that the Constitution gives to us to the executive branch, that we create these agencies and we allow the agencies to make rules. And while we give the agency a budget, we then let the agency determine upon what programs those dollars will be spent. And it has passed time for Congress to be able to claw back some of that authority, for us to be able to say, no, we're not going to allow some unelected bureaucrat to decide where these funds are being spent. We're not going to let some unelected bureaucrat decide what the rules are going to be, but we're going to take that rule-making process back. I will tell you that that's something that I have advocated for, and I think you're seeing more members of Congress are kind of getting around to that mindset. Because right now, look, we're excited about what President Trump is doing. We're excited about having him in office. We know that for the next 4 years that these agencies will be run much more efficiently than they have been. But look, we also know that President Trump won't be in office forever. At some point, his term will expire. And so we need to take advantage of this opportunity that we have when we have the House, or we have the Senate, and we have the White House. And we need to bring that rulemaking authority back under the purview of Congress. And we also need to do a much better job of monitoring our spending. We have inspector generals who are supposed to go out and audit the books of many of these federal agencies. And I will tell you that they perform very poorly. And so we've got a lot of work to do to bring these agencies under control.
I agree with you. Congressman Michael Guest, you are a gentleman and a scholar. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, gentlemen. Y'all have a great day.